Be going over the research rhetoric notes. So basically, the idea behind these notes is to help you to understand how to incorporate research into the rhetoric that you use. Okay. So, first of all, a little bit about rhetoric. So, rhetoric is the art of argumentation and persuasion. And when I say argumentation, people often think like you're either on one side or you're on another, like an argument. But rhetoric isn't that sort of all or nothing sort of deal. You want to change how you think about arguments. So all that rhetoric needs is a purpose and a stance. It needs to have a reason why you're writing and a specific viewpoint that you wish your audience to adopt, okay? It's not an oppositional force. It's not, sort of, pushing up against each other sort of thing. You may want to change simply the way someone thinks about your topic. So it doesn't have to be for or against. It can simply be interpretive. You're trying to show your interpretation of something, to show a different way of looking at it. Analytical. So again, just having a different way of looking at something. It can be enlightening. You're trying to tell people about something that they may not know a lot about, that helps them to make a decision that in a way that you want them to make it. It can be demonstrative, so you're trying to demonstrate that there's a problem or that there's something to be done. Or it can be revelatory, something you want to reveal that hasn't been seen. The only thing that it cannot be is informative. Your audience has the internet for that, so you're not looking to write a Wikipedia page for something, okay? You're not trying to just say, like, here's a paper all about the facts of this. Because rhetoric is about having an opinion and stating that opinion and then backing up that opinion with evidence. So you can have your opinion, and that's where your claim comes from, but then you back it up with facts. Okay, so you have to have a claim that shows your purpose and your stance. Okay. So when you're thinking about rhetorical research, you don't want what we call a data dump. And that's when you just take a bunch of facts and you just dump them on the page. You just dump all of your sources onto the page and you don't really do anything with them. Okay? Your voice, your perspective, and your stance should be 60% of the essay. Your research is there to lend expertise that you don't have, to fill in the gaps in your own knowledge and your own sort of understanding of things. It's not to make the argument for you. So your claim can't come from your research. Your claim has to come from you. But your research can help you to develop an informed stance of your own. So you might not find your claim right away, okay? But you want to sort of pick a direction to go in and a research question, and then use your sources to educate yourself on the topic, and then decide from there what your claim and your stance is going to be, okay? So find reliable sources that both you and your readers can trust. Read your source with an open mind and integrate that information with what you already know. Then you're going to revise your stance based on that new information, and then repeat that with your next source. So with each source that you read, you want to be sort of revising your stance based on the new information that you now have. Okay? So, once you've, done your research, you want to, and you're informed about your topic, you want to invent a claim. An invention in writing means coming up with an idea. You invent an idea. There are strategies for this, including but not limited to free writing, brainstorming, observation, personal experience, and not typing paper topic ideas into Google. And we'll go over why that's not a good idea in a minute. But, you want to start with what you already know, what you care about, what you're passionate about. And, what your personal experiences tell you is something that needs to be addressed. And that's where your purpose comes from. If you know that this is a thing that needs to be addressed and isn't being addressed, or if you think that people would benefit from what you have to say on a topic, then that's where your purpose comes from, not from, a topic that you don't really care about or that you don't have any personal experience with, that you're just picking because it's the easy topic. And I want you to avoid what you think is going to be an easy topic, because picking an easy topic usually means that you're picking a topic you don't care about. And the problem with that is that you're going to write a long paper on this for my class. We're going to be writing this the entire semester. And so you don't want to be stuck with something that you don't care about, because that is not going to make the paper easy. It's going to make it hard. So make sure that you start with your own personal experience, something that you're going to care about, something that you are interested in. And you can write about just about anything, but you should know that there are a few common problems that a claim might have that will be fatal to an argument. The first is generic topics. These are topics that are overused, overgeneralized, and frankly, they're boring, okay? They tend to be topics you'll find that when you type in essay topics into Google. When you type essay, topics into Google, or paper topics, or argumentative essay topics into Google, what you're going to come up with is the same argumentative paper that 1,000 people have written about, because those are the most common. So you're often not going to be able to add to the conversation on it because it's been covered, And so they're usually very two-sided, pro-con, either-or arguments, which I told you is not what you're going for here. You're not going for pro or con, either or, for or against. You want something that's more nuanced than that. Many political topics in the U.S. are two-sided because of our two-party system, and so often they don't work for an essay in which you're trying to find a nuanced way to talk about something, and a new way to think about something. They also tend to be world problems, or national problems, arguments that are meant to solve an unsolvable issue. You cannot solve issues of abortion, gun control, death penalty, homelessness, climate change, etc. in a college essay. If you could, we'd have solved them. But you can't. So what's the point? If you're not going to solve the issue or break new ground on the issue, then what's the point? you're not going to have an audience, because the people who already agree with you, and the people who disagree with you are on the complete opposite side, and they're never going to agree with you. So you're not going to have an audience for those sorts of arguments. And these arguments are also common. They're arguments I've heard 1,000 times already. So things like, college athletes should get paid. I don't really care either way. Like, sure, I think college athletes should get paid. But, I've heard all the arguments for and against. I don't think you're going to cover anything that I haven't heard, and that everybody hasn't heard. Same thing with something like marijuana should be legalized. I mean, I don't care either way. I have no stake in that game, and it really doesn't matter to me. But I've heard all the arguments for and against, and you're not going to tell me anything that everybody doesn't already know. So, again, what's the point? If it's already been covered, what are you going to add? So, you want to avoid these kinds of generic topics. You also want to avoid topics that are actually questions. So you might ask a question that leads to a claim, but a question itself is not a claim. You have to have a stance. You have to go a certain direction. You can't go in every direction, okay? And a question leads you in every direction, okay? So you need to actually answer the question that you ask at the beginning of the semester, the research question that you ask. You need to actually answer that for it to be a valid claim. But you also want to be careful with the kind of question that you ask, even at the beginning of the semester when you're just starting to find a direction. So here's a few sort of examples of things you should not go for. Do the benefits of technology outweigh the damage? Now, this is just a question. It's not a claim. It can go in any direction whatsoever, and you need to go in one direction. And it's not even a good question as a research question, because the answer to this question is either yes or no. And you're not going to write a multi-page paper with the words yes or no. Even if you put your evidence for yes or no, you're really only getting 3 pages out of that. I'm going to be honest. That's not, a yes or no question is not the one you want to go for. So if your question can be answered with yes or no, it's not a good question. The next one is not technically phrased as a question, but it is still sort of question-like because it allows you to go in any different direction. It doesn't have a direction. Technology is good in some ways and bad in others. So you've got good and bad, and you're sort of... You can go in any direction with that. So you want to not use something like that as your claim, because your claim, again, needs to go in one direction. And it's not good to get started with your research because you're just saying, like, good or bad. So where are you going to go with that? Like, what argument are you going to make with that, really? That it's either good or it's bad, or that it's both. And that's not really a claim. And the next one, in what ways is technology good? Now, this only goes in one direction, but you're really just going to list, it's going to lead to a list of the ways in which technology is good. And that's not really a claim. So, the claim here is just technology is good, and good and bad is the same as yes or no, or either or pro or con, or for or against, and it's not going to lead you to a nuanced paper that you can write as much as I'm going to ask you to write about it. So these are not good research questions. They're not specific enough. They don't lead to nuanced answers. They lead to one or the other kind of answers. So they're not even good for research questions. But if you ask the right kind of research question, it can be a good place to start as long as it's specific and it avoids yes or no answers. So, for example, how has technology changed the way in which American citizens enact their right to protest? In that way, you are asking a question that is specific. It's not just saying technology in general. It's talking about technology and protesting and how technology has influenced protesting and all of that. And so that's going to give you a direction and it's going to give you purpose. And you're not going to answer that with yes or no. You're going to be sort of analyzing the different ways in which this has happened, and then you're going to research like how people use technology to protest and inform yourself, and then make an informed decision about like what you want to say about it, and go from there, and answer your own question with a claim, basically. And you also want to avoid obvious fact topics. You know how to write informatively, and you will have to write informatively in college, but I'm teaching you that other type of writing, argumentative writing, rhetorical writing. Therefore, you cannot have informative topics. I'm not looking for a book report. I'm not looking for you to tell me about the history of the Civil War or about the Eiffel Tower or about this historical event or this thing or whatever. Okay, I'm not looking for a book report. I'm not looking for you to inform me about something, because that doesn't have a stance. And obvious fact topics announce either a widely held fact, a widely known fact, so many people in America are obese. Yes, and what's your point there? I mean, that's just a fact. Like, so, what's your stance there? And, many people will be like, well, that's the problem. Okay, yeah, but everybody knows that too. And then they'll go, well, but like, they're not doing anything about it. And I'm like, okay, well, so what are you going to do about it? So it's a process. You want to stray away from that widely known fact. It also could announce a widely held belief. So many people don't believe in climate change. That is a fact. That's just a true statement. Many people believe that the earth is flat. Yes, that's true. And, so the problem is that these are just facts. They prove themselves because they're just true. And so you can't, you don't really need evidence to prove them because they're just facts. So anyone who denies facts, anyone who says, like, many people in America aren't obese, they're not going to be persuaded by your logical argument, okay? Because you're going to use facts, right, to persuade them, and that they deny facts. So how are you going to persuade them when they don't listen to facts? And what are you trying to persuade them of? The facts? So just, it's not the best audience to go for. So you want to stay away from those obvious fact topics. So, you don't need a fully formed claim to start with. You will have a topic and a research question, but you won't necessarily have a stance in the beginning. Okay, so you need to start with a research question, something you want to know more about so that you can develop an informed stance on the topic. And, it's often better to not have an existing opinion, but you are encouraged to develop and share your opinion once you've thoroughly researched your topic. You want something that you have, that you're interested in or even passionate about, but something that you can be open-minded about too. Something that if you encounter compelling evidence that disagrees with your current stance, you need to be willing to then change that stance based on that new evidence, okay? So if it's something that you're never, ever, ever going to change your mind on, that's probably not the best topic, because you need to be able to revise your claim using your research once you have, once you've done your research. You'll also be doing for this project a primary research project. So this is research that you conduct yourself, things like surveys or interviews or focus groups or content analysis or data-driven observation to answer any questions that your research doesn't answer. So you might think about, what do you think your research isn't going to cover? Or maybe even wait and see what your research doesn't cover and then try to cover that with your own primary research. All right, so basically, hopefully you're watching this before you've proposed a claim to me. And what I want you to do is I want you to email me a sort of idea, okay? A topic and a research question, and maybe, like some ideas on what you might want to do with it. But mostly what I need is a topic and a research question, okay? I also need you to include in that email your phone number and a good time to reach you on Thursday, okay? Because I am going to try to call everyone on Thursday and talk to you about your proposed claim and let you know if it's going to be approved or if it needs to be changed. We'll have a discussion to try to come to something that will work for you. And that way you won't have to try to, because sometimes that conversation can be a little bit too much back and forth to do over email because there's so much wait time. So it's better if I can do it over the phone. That way you can sort of, we can talk together about, what sorts of changes you can make to make that better. And I can tailor that to what you want to do instead of just saying like, well, you can't do this, but you can do this, and then, forcing you into something that you're not actually interested in. So I want to be able to tailor it, and that requires a conversation. So include your phone number and a good time to reach you and a topic and a research question in your email. So I look forward to talking to you all about your proposed topics, and I will see you next week. Okay.